What's going on? This is Kareem from DJBooth.net, and I'm here in the lab to give you guys a full video rundown review of the new Rane Sixty-Two-Z Z-Trip Edition digital DJ mixer. Now, if you guys remember, a few months ago we did a full review on the Rane 61 mixer. That was also a Rane Serato SSL internal sound card mixer, which came bundled with your different software for your Serato Scratch Live. Also comes with your timecode CDs, and you also got timecode vinyl with that as well. The 62 edition mixer does one better and actually includes a bunch of onboard effects, which are post fader. You also get a lot of different MIDI functionality and buttons here, such as looping, cue points, and samples. And you get a bunch of other cool features that was not offered on the 61, but they are now offered on the 62. The 62Z Trip edition, which I have for you right here, is actually a DJ Z-Trip inspired limited edition mixer, which costs about $100 more, but for that price you get a cool layout and a new faceplate inspired by Z-Trip, and you also get a nice hard case with some very high quality RCA cables inside. I'll show you that really quick. High quality RCA cables to hook up your turntables or your CDJs. So, in order to set this up, it's fairly easy. You just run your software CD and also run the CD for the ISO driver. They're one and the same with this package. When you're using a Windows machine, you plug in your USB port in the back and you're ready to go. You plug in your two either timecode vinyl or CDJ decks, and you set them up in the software to be timecode decks, and then you correspond that to the correct terminal here on your program for your channel, and you're ready to start playing. You plug this all into your computer USB port, and everything just lights right up. Setup was very simple, very easy, only took a few minutes to set it up. So before we get started, we'll take a quick look at what's on the front and rear panels of the mixer. On the front you have your crossfader controls and your line fader controls. Each one has its own reverse function so that you can reverse the pole of the faders individually. They're all magnetic faders. We'll go into that in a second. You also have your crossfader and your line fader curve control knobs, so you can make them really tight, really sharp, or you can make them a really slow curve. Next you have your headphone outputs. You have a 1/4 inch or your 1/8 inch style. Going along the back we have a whole lot of inputs and outputs. All the way over here to the right you have your ICE style power cable. There's two different USB ports. We'll get into that a little bit later, but this is an SL4 that's basically inside of your 62, meaning you can switch between DJs on the fly with two different SSL computers being plugged in at the same time. You have a main XLR output, you have a booth 1/4 inch output, you have your Flex FX loop send and return setup so you can use your external effects modules. Next you have your session in and out. This is for additional line level devices or for daisy chaining mixers together for performances. Next up you have your 4 line or phono level inputs. You can switch them all to be either phono, turntable, or CD line level. And then you have your analog input grounding posts for your turntables as well. All the way over here in your corner you have your combo plug, which is your 1/4 inch and XLR for your microphone input. Alright everyone, so here we have it, the 62Z edition digital Rane Serato mixer, and right now we have it all set up. We have it all set up on the computer, and everything is set up with the timecode vinyl that came with the package. And we have our digital files up on the screen, and now we are able to manipulate them and use them and play back any way we see fit. So we'll just run down all the features of the mixer. Again, on the front we had all of the different crossfader controls and the contours and reverses. One note to go along with the first impressions and the setup of the device. The first impressions, very nice heavy metal gauge steel construction. The only downfall with the construction of the mixer that I can see is that every single post that we have here is plastic underneath, including the posts on the front. Now you have to be very careful when you maneuver this and move it around in transport. I would think for a $2,000 mixer that they would have metal posts for all of the underneaths of your knobs, but that is not the case here on the 62. And it's worth pointing out, since the older edition Rane TTM mixers did have metal posts. So it's just worth pointing out so you guys know that there are differences with the old edition and new edition Rane mixers in that regard. Other than that, you have very good sound quality, really nice buttons. Everything has a nice lighted backing to it, so you know when something is pressed and something is enacted. And you have a nice full feature set overall on this mixer. You have your magnetic Rane faders, some of the best faders ever produced, ever made in the business. Perfect for scratching, perfect for mixing, and they last a very, 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 very long time. Next up, you have your Q section over here. You have your split Q button, which allows you to hear what's playing in your Q section or within your main section. You can split them up between your two different headphones. And you have your Q and main knob. That way you can fade between what is in the Q section and what is in the main. And then you have your headphone volume. If you notice on the Z-Trip style edition mixer, you have your yellow knobs. All of your yellow knobs will control all of your gain and all of your volume levels. So you can see at a glance, even like in a low light situation, where your most pertinent volume controls are at a glance. Next up, all the way to the left, you have your sampler section. This is your controls for your sampler within your software. You have your volume controls for the sample. You can also change the filter of the actual sample that you're playing, and you can press effects to have effect on your sample as well. Next up, you have your different Q sections. You can cue USB aux, cue the whole thing. You can cue just your left channel, your right channel, cue them both, and that will be what is playing within your Q section. You can also cue your effects section. We'll get to that in a second. Next up, you have loop controls, identical on both sides. From top to bottom, you have manual loop or auto loop. You can grow or shorten your loop with your bar count knob right here. Next up, you have loop in and out controls. You can save and you can delete your loops, and you can also transfer them into your SP6 sampler. Next up, you have your navigation controls on both sides. This way you can select and go through all of your different crates, all of your folders and your playlists, and select the different song that you want on that particular side. Once you have it selected, you're ready to go, you're ready to play. Next up, all the way at the top, you have your SP6 assign. This way you can assign whatever you have within your library to a particular one of your sample banks, which will bring us to the sample section. This is your sample and Q section. You have access to all 24 banks of your sample at one time. When you press the sample bank, you see the light indicates you're in the samples section, with A and B being your sample bank A, B, and C, D being your other two sample banks, and you have 3 on each side, so all together 3 times 8, you get your 24 sample banks. Next up, with your cue points, when you're in the sample section, switching out to the cue points is fairly simple. Hit your sample section to your cue section by pressing the middle indicator button.
Where you came, I know you stressing and wondering why I jet it. Cause you trying to jet it, cause you trying to jet it, cause you trying to be my...
Really easy to hit your hot cues and recall them back on the fly. Next up, we have your intuitive and very expansive effects section, which is basically the full middle section of the mixer. In this section, you have your onboard effects, which are filter, flanger, phaser, echo, robot, reverb. They're all post-fader effects, meaning once the effect or the volume of the actual song is turned down, the effect will still tail off in the end. Show you a little example of that. Echo.
I can't commit to friendship. She say I hurt, 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 she say I hurt.
So you got your post-fader effects, and you can change the time and the beat and the depth using these controls and the 360-degree joystick. And in the middle, it has a lot of your different readouts for your effect, lets you know what effect is on, lets you know the BPM, and it also lets you know the parameters or the beat time of the effect that you're using. You can completely turn the effects on or off by pressing this big on-off button here, and you can also tap in the correct BPM of your effect just by pressing down here on the tap button to the beat of the song. Next up, you have your insert effect button, which allows you to insert your effects from within the software as well. So you can go into your software controls, set an effect there, and when you're ready to insert it, you can press this insert key here, and now you're allowed to enact the digital effect onto any one of your different channels or the master or microphone as well. Next up, you have your external insert, where you can use your external effect processor, and anything that you're using within the external effect processor, you can still use your different controls here to get the effect just right, and you can also affect them onto any channel, microphone, or master as well. Next up, we have your EQ section. You have your full kill 3-band EQ, low, mid, high. You also have a filter knob for low and high pass filters. And then you have a pan for left speaker to right speaker.
Everybody, all my exes bad, so a bad bitch is average. Playing hard to get, it's better with a champ. I promise if I want it, I can have it. I know you got a man, I know they treat you. I know the things you want, and you don't gotta lie.
Next up, all the way at the top, you have your selector knob, which allows you to select between computer A, which is your first USB connector, computer B for switching out to another DJ, which will be in your second USB connector, or to play your regular Phono 1 CD2 or Phono 3 CD4 as you select. So you can have up to 4 different inputs on the back. 2 of them can be timecode digital inputs, and the other 2 can be your live inputs. You can also go between 2 different DJs at a time very easy and seamlessly using this A-B style USB connectivity that you have on the back. So you're paying big money for that feature, because that feature is very sought after for people that have big setups in clubs or places where they just can't afford to have any downtime between music when they're switching from DJ to DJ. Next up, you have your microphone section. Your microphone section here has an on-off button as well as a talk-over button, which allows you to talk over whatever's playing. It lowers the volume of everything else. And you also have your 2-band EQ on your microphone and your level overall of the microphone as well. You'll notice these flex FX buttons for all of your different channels or your microphone, or even on your sampler. That way you can pick exactly where you want your effects to go. Next up, you have your mix section, which has your main volume control, your booth volume control, your session in and your session out volume control. These session ins and outs are just line level RCAs on the back that we showed you earlier, and you can adjust the volume control on those individually as well. So overall, during use, the Rane 62Z performs phenomenally. Everything you need is right there at your fingertips. All of your MIDI controls is there. All of your advanced looping controls is there. And everything just performs flawlessly. It's low latency. I haven't had any issues with the latency between scratching or between pressing any of the buttons. You can drum on your hot cues here. The buttons are all hard plastic, so if you prefer something maybe softer plastic, more tactile feel, you might want to go with an additional controller. If you need, but there really is no need for that here. Everything is here at your fingertips, laid out in a nice, small, compact package, and it's really a one-of-a-kind package when you put everything together that you're allowed to pull off with this 62Z. You're really not allowed to do anywhere else. For example, there are no other mixers that are 2-channel that have SSL sound card inside of it that allows you all of this extra onboard functionality and built-in effects right there on the board as well. So in conclusion, the Rane 62Z Trip mixer is a very nice mixer. It is one of the best, if not the best, Rane internal SSL mixers that you can get with all of these onboard MIDI functionalities. You also have your onboard advanced effects and all these onboard advanced looping functions as well that you can control within the software. So for that reason, we're definitely going to recommend the mixer. On the downside, there were some issues with the construction with the plastic posts underneath all of your knobs, and the price is pretty high, but all in all, it's a one-of-a-kind type of package, and you can't find any other 2-channel mixers anywhere else that has an internal SSL sound card that is capable as this and that has a nice package all in a nice small form factor. So for more on the full review, head on over to our website, which is at the link at the top of this description, or you can just search www.djbooth.net, and you can see all of our reviews there. You can also follow us on Twitter at DJBlaze_DJBooth, and keep on subscribing to this YouTube channel. That way you know as soon as these videos are going to drop. Thanks for watching.